Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm the ESOP guy, and you are on a journey to an ESOP. And so excited to be able to do this podcast today. This podcast is really a resource that we've created to help folks that are thinking about turning their business into an employee stock ownership plan. And so it's a resource available. If it's your first time tuning into the podcast, I just wanted to say thank you for joining today. And if you have an interest in other episodes, please go to our website at journeytoanesop.com. And today we have the privilege of interviewing a very recent new ESOP company. And the gentleman I'm interviewing is Todd Knowlton, and he represents a company called Smooth Fusion. And I thought it would be really helpful for Todd just to share his story with everybody. And mostly what we're gonna kind of lean into is the decision to become an ESOP company. And I think a lot of people will benefit by listening to this or watching this YouTube, in that just the process that Todd has gone through to get to where he is. And it's interesting because he's at a place where we're pretty much done with the first stage transaction. We're not completely done yet, so it's fairly new. But really what we wanted to talk to Todd a lot about was just kind of the steps that he went to at the very beginning to get to where he is today. So with all that, I wanted to say welcome, Todd, to our podcast.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks for joining us. So why don't we start off with just kind of an overall question? Like, tell us a little bit about Smooth Fusion, your company, and just kind of you're a little bit about what you guys do in terms of your operations and the way your business works.
Sure, we are at the heart of it, we're a web development company. We're almost 21 years old. Been doing kind of the high end of web development for those years. So we serve what we would call enterprise clients, but basically the not necessarily Fortune 500, but sophisticated clients that spend real budgets on their website. And so we do everything from the design to the implementation to the ongoing support for websites and web applications.
Awesome. And you guys are located in Texas?
Lubbock, Texas. We've got people kind of spread all over the place. We a lot of remote folks, but our headquarters is in West Texas.
And so the way the structure of your company is, you have multiple shareholders, and so it's not just you making the call on what's going to happen, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've got two other shareholders besides me.
Great. So let's kind of like with that in mind. Okay, when I ask that question too, I've seen and work with companies where we got one shareholder and it's him or her, or whatever they say goes. And in other cases, we have multiple shareholders, and it's a little, when you do ESOP work, you kind of have to work through to make sure all the shareholders are kind of up to speed. When you first thought about, and I think that the story is you're the one that came up with the idea for the ESOP, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We've been a pretty much an open book management kind of company for a long time, and very transparent with our people all along. And so the ESOP ended up, or some kind of employee ownership anyway, ended up being on our radar as just a natural next step. And there was really kind of two things that I never wanted to see happen. I didn't want to be one of those founders who waited till I was really old and desperate to figure something out on some kind of transition plan. Wanted to start thinking about it early. And particularly since a lot of our people are here in West Texas, another issue that was always really important to us was we knew that the kind of company that would likely be a buyer for a company like us would probably not really value our people in West Texas necessarily. It would be more of a buy them out because of their customer list or this kind of thing. And so it was important to us to protect that, and at least give our employees the opportunity to kind of take it and run. And we've had really good luck developing great leadership from within our ranks. And so it just made a lot more sense and seemed like the fair thing to do as well, to look into employee ownership and not just obviously we're in a industry where there are buyers. We get contacted regularly, folks that would like to buy our company, but that just didn't feel like the right thing for us.
No, for sure. And you're like, in your case too, you're not ready to sell your stock, really. I mean,
Right.
we're going to talk about as a non-leveraged ESOP where you guys actually contribute your money, or you contribute your shares in this case to this brand new ESOP that you created. How hard was it to convince your shareholders that the ESOP was the right direction to go?
In our case, actually not hard at all. We've got one of our shareholders is a person we invited to be a shareholder because he's just a brilliant guy, and he's just a good friend, and so he's supportive of everything we want to do. He is not involved in the company. He's an outside shareholder. The third shareholder, the other one is my original co-founder, been with me since day one. Actually was an employee of mine in my previous company 20 something years ago. And he and I have very similar values on that, and desires to really protect our employees and create the place, that we wanted to create. And so in our case, it was not a tough thing at all.
No, that's good. Cause I had clients where I spent like 2 months trying to convince everybody, hey, this is going to be a good thing. And I do a lot of like analysis to show people like, all right, this is what it's going to look like on the tax side. And, so that's good. I think obviously every company's different. And so you guys, and now before all that happened, I know you went to like a lot of, conferences and invested in a lot of like research. Tell us a little bit about the process for you to like learn about ESOPs and how did that go?
Yeah. So I guess it's been at least 4, maybe 5 years that I've been educating myself on this. And so that was part of it too, is we've taken a long time to learn about it and sort of look at our options. Honestly, my initial reaction to ESOPs was not terribly positive. They seemed very complex. And so I actually kind of, for a while, was out there looking for the best alternatives to ESOPs. And but the more people I talked to and the more I learned about it, started to realize that the benefits were going to outweigh the hassle of it, I think. And so ultimately, we actually got pretty excited about the ESOP and the way it's structured and what it does, and especially I think from the employee standpoint, it's actually pretty simple, and that's what I liked about it. It's a little more complex maybe from the company standpoint than some options, but I felt like from our employee side, it was going to be a pretty easy to understand and very valuable to them. And then when I learned about the tax advantages, to us as well and to the company, that was a contributing factor as well. So I started going, 4 or 5 years ago, started going to conferences, meeting people, looking to meet people that had obviously adopted ESOPs in their own companies, get their experiences, meeting some of the, the service providers out there as well. And it was, and because we weren't in a hurry, I didn't feel any pressure to move at any particular pace, but we probably a year or so into going to those conferences, I was pretty convinced that's where we would eventually end up.
Yeah. So I have a question about the conferences for you specifically, because I think my first conference I went to, I was just like, wow, there's a billion people here. And and I'm a service provider. So coming from your perspective, I could imagine it had to be a little bit like, what do I do for, it's like a big trade show when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Did you feel overwhelmed, or how did you navigate the conferences? Because I'm sure a lot of people listen and they'll probably end up, now we're going to conferences again because COVID's over. What advice would you give them in terms of investigating the best options?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is I went to, both ESOP Association and NCEO kind of conferences, pretty early on, I went to one of the fall forums that NCEO puts on.
Yep.
That was great because it was a smaller crowd and I really got to meet a lot of people. Wasn't nearly as overwhelming as the big shows are. So I would definitely recommend that is go to something like the fall forum where you get a smaller crowd to talk to. And then I think just in general, I think what I learned was, the sessions are great and I learned a lot in the sessions, but ultimately you could learn that on a podcast or something else. It's the people you meet at those conferences, and you just have to, when you start meeting people, see who they would like you to meet. All the people that we're working with today came out of relationships that were sort of built that way. Somebody said, oh, you need to talk to this person over here. And then they bring in people they like to work with. And that's how I really, I think, started to feel a comfort level with, okay, there's some really good people in this mix that think like me and are going to be on the lookout for our interest in this, and they're going to be patient with us as we learn. And so, yeah, just walking through like the exhibit hall kind of stuff, I never got a whole lot out of at the conferences. It was really the meeting folks, and the sessions can be good.
Yeah.
That's
one of the things I was like, to be honest, like when the COVID happened and they were having virtual conferences, I'm like, why do a virtual conference? I mean, just being totally honest, like I want to go meet people. I want to build, like you said, I want to go build relationships with people. Because I think in the end that they have, you're not just trying to find somebody to help you with your ESOP. You're trying to really talk to people and understand, you're trying to get as much information as you can. But ultimately, when you do decide to do a transaction, at some level, you're going to want to feel comfortable with these people. And ESOP people are all over the country, but you're not like, you're in Texas and I'm in Florida. And, I think when we did your deal, the guy that did the valuation is in Tampa, but, we don't have to be next door to you. And that's really the case. Like, you're not going to have people in your own hometown typically to help you. So going to the conferences, I think, really helps to get comfortable with who you might be dealing with. And then just kind of going into a conference, what would you say would be, because you're going to get approached by a lot of people, right? And it is a place for people to sell their services. So it's not, that's kind of what you need to gear up for. Hey, people are going to pitch me why I should go with them. What was your experience like with that? Like people coming and saying, hey, you should definitely go with us because we're the best.
Yeah. I guess I was always willing to hear them out. I think I was primarily looking for, people that I felt like I connected with. I think one of the things that, especially the larger companies that are represented there, often the folks that they send to the conferences are, kind of sales folks, and I don't generally connect that well with salesy people. So I didn't feel like I got a whole lot out of some of those discussions. Whereas, the smaller, and I think it's what's actually kind of really interesting about the ESOP world is some of what would seem like smaller providers actually have a ton of experience, and they're really the ones that know the depth and breadth of a lot of this stuff. And I connected with those folks so much more, and you knew that was the person I would be dealing with if I engage this company. Mm-hmm. If I engage the big company, well, the sales guy that I talked to at the conference, I'm never going to see again. And
right.
And so it was, I think that actually brought a lot of comfort to me, was seeing that there were some smaller providers that really knew their stuff.
Yep.
And we're very well connected. And the ESOP world it's kind of a big community too. They all know each other.
Yeah.
And that's good too. And I think that's helped me get to, even, a lot of those folks will take you to dinner if you go to the conference. So,
you get free dinners out of it,
and those are valuable because you get to sit and really, chat with somebody, get to know them a little bit, and decide if this is somebody you would feel comfortable, getting involved with. Because obviously, it's your baby, right? You spend a lot of time building this company up, and you want to feel like the folks that you're engaging with are, they get you and they get what you're wanting to do, and that they're competent. And but I feel like there's a lot of really good, competent folks out there.
Yeah, for sure. And there are, and it's just a matter of doing what you did. Is what I like about your story is you started so early in the process. And, I meet people all the time that are ready to do it now. It's time to do it now. And unfortunately, they haven't done any real research. They haven't done any real planning, and they may definitely take the first person that they talk to, because I think ESOP people are pretty smart in general. And even the salespeople they're going to come across pretty smart. Like, hey, so my biggest thing with people, and part of this podcast, is just to help people make good decisions on, for me, I just want them to choose the right people they feel comfortable with, just like you did, Todd. Feel good about that, but do your research, because this is an asset that you've created. A lot of these companies, like 30 years, 40 years of your life, have gone into creating this. And how many times are you going to sell it? Once, right? When you get down to it. Yeah. So kind of important to do it the right way. So I really do always tell people, even if you're 5 years, 10 years, even 10 years out, just start looking at these things now, because they truly make a difference in how you're going to pull that off. And it may not be, you may not go do an ESOP. I've got several clients right now that they're like, hey, I don't necessarily know I want to do an ESOP. And so the process that you go through, you want to evaluate, use the ESOP, but evaluate other options, because it really isn't for everybody. But, as you come back to your story, I think it was very valuable that you took the time. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because you took the time to do it, and you were patient with it, and you weren't needing to get anything done right away. So I think that gives you an advantage when you're starting to think about it.
Yeah. Starting early was a good deal for us, because we've just had plenty of time to say, well, we look at it next year, that's, whatever, just really has been, being rushed would have been scary, I think.
Yep. So far, like in your employees, do they know where we are with it yet, or they are all up to speed?
In fact, if we made any mistake, probably we started talking about it too early, because we did move pretty slow. But we're so transparent with our employees. We just, they just have to get used to that. And so we started talking to them about it literally years ago. And then we actually did a survey of our employees a little over a year ago, maybe it was a little pre-pandemic. And at that time, there was not an overwhelming understanding of exactly what it was. In the survey, what basically came back was people still felt a little unsure about what does all this mean and all. Sure. So we spent 6 or 8 months doing a lot of very intentional education with our employees about what it would mean, how it would work. Let them ask absolutely any question they wanted to ask, and did a whole series on that, and then repeated that exact same survey with the exact same questions, and got an overwhelming, heck yeah, we're ready for this. And so that was, I think that was another nice thing about having the time to move slowly, is our employees know now what this is, what to expect. They understand the timeline of what's going on. And I think you start to get, I think we definitely are already reaping the benefits, and have been for the last year or so, of employee ownership, even though they still haven't gotten their first statement. So
yeah, dude,
yeah, so,
I'm telling you what, that's phenomenal. Like you got like way early on. I love it. So the survey, I've never heard people do it. So like that, that's great. So the survey you used to educate them, and then you got feedback from them specifically as to what their thoughts are. And then when you redid it, basically it showed that their comprehension and knowledge of what the ESOP was rifling up.
yeah, and their interest in it. So, because that was what we were really trying to gauge was, in what areas do they have concerns about it, and what areas are they excited about it. And we had a few employees that really clicked with it early on, and they were gung-ho, on the first survey, but it took a while and more education to get everybody ready for that. And part of that, as we had some debt we were working off from buying out a previous shareholder. So part of our slower timeline was we wanted to be debt free. And so, we achieved that. And so that we could roll into this, in a good position as a debt free company and all of that as well. And so, and we're transparent about that with our employees. They knew why we had debt and what went on. And so, and that thing, ESOPs just fit really well if you're going to have that kind of culture.
Sure.
If you're not really going to share and have open book management and all with it, then you probably are missing out on the real magic of the ESOP. If it's just this statement that shows up once a year and they don't really understand what's behind it, I think you're missing a great opportunity to get more out of it.
Well, let me ask you that, because the open book management thing, I will tell you that I have one other client that's open book management, and they're pretty much they're where you are. They're doing their big transactions soon, and so I have enough information from how they do their business. So, how long have you guys been? When you say open book management, what do you mean? Let's start with that, and then.
So in our case, we are transparent about all the numbers and the metrics. They know all the metrics that are important to us as a company. They know what those numbers are. They know our revenue numbers. We discuss level of profitability. So, we're not showing everybody absolutely every line item of everything, but they know exactly how we're doing and why, and we talk about what's driving the different metrics and all that. And we've been doing that probably 4 or 5 years in a really big way, where we're really, very open book. And so, yeah, we've been doing that for 4 or 5 years. Even before that, we were always pretty honest and transparent with people about how things are going. But now they see the numbers. In fact, just this morning, a report went out from our accounting guy downstairs that showed the folks where, the trends on our numbers and how we're doing. And of course, we're in a business that billable hours and all those the metrics are pretty basic metrics.
Sure.
So they're easy and we hire smart people. We've got a company full of software engineers and folks that are numbers people. So They appreciate the numbers.
Yeah, betcha. Yeah, they get it. It didn't take you like a lot to explain the financial statement to them. Do they know how much you make personally?
No,
okay. I was just curious. So they don't know your officer salary. That's good. And they don't know they
probably feel sorry for me if they knew.
I know. Well, I think that's funny. The thing about open book management is some people think a business owner makes a lot. They're taking all the cash out of the business and they've got this, big mansion somewhere. And the truth is most business owners, small to mid-size, it's locked up in the business, like working capital and financing growth. Where do you think that financing growth comes from? You can use the bank, but it doesn't, you gotta put your own money in there, your own capital. But so I think it's interesting. I have had people ask me, to become an ESOP company, do I have to be an open book management company? And I'm like, no, you don't. You absolutely can share with them the keep doing the thing you're doing right now, which is just share with them the participant statement every year. That's what you would do. And so
I just think if you don't at least educate them enough to where they know where they can make an impact on the value, then you're just not doing them or yourself much of a service. Because like we've had a profit-based sort of bonus system for years as well. And you'd be amazed how many times employees will come to us saying, we could save money if we swap this tool for this tool, because they know if we can save some money, it shows up, in the value that they take home. And so having people think more like owners has a big payoff.
It does have a big payoff. Yeah. And so you've seen the benefit of that. And I think it's interesting as we talk about your story, because we'll talk about the way we've set up your ESOP right now. But you've already seen an impact from your employees. Is that in people sticking around? Is that in productivity, or where do you see the value coming in so far?
Yeah, I think both. We've traditionally had a fairly low turnover anyway, but we've through COVID and all the uncertainty of things of late, not had any turnover at all, and people seem to be engaged, and not everything's been good for us during COVID. We had a lot of since we serve a lot of folks on the West Coast, up in Seattle and Portland and places like that shut down pretty hard for a while.
Oh yeah.
And so it affected our business, and we've definitely we had across the board pay cuts for a while, and those were well received, and people appreciated the transparency and what was going on, and so I think and I'm a big believer that when you are a open book management company, you attract a certain kind of employee that is exactly the kind you want. You'd love to have all your employees really want to engage with that and act like and think like owners. And I think when that's part of your culture, that's who you attract and retain, and there's a huge payoff from that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. I mean, it is, the people side of the business is probably the hardest. When you're a CEO of any business, everybody's probably going to agree on the same thing. It's hard to find the right people, get the right people in the right seats, keep the right people, motivate the people. I mean, all of those things, when it comes to people, it's hard, and it's always changing, because they're always changing. I know it's part of it. So let's talk about your ESOP transaction. So you guys are, when I say I'm going to let you explain this. It's a non-leveraged ESOP without redemption. So right. Tell us what you did exactly. So what we did to get things started was we just contributed shares of stock straight from the company to the ESOP, which diluted the existing shareholders a little bit. But that was we decided was the most straightforward way to get this thing started. Cool. And so technically what's happened is you guys gave stock out of your own pockets, your shareholders, and that stock goes from you and into the ESOP trust. The ESOP trust then allocates that. It's basically a contribution in this year. It allocates all of that stock immediately to the employees. Right. And so what the decision-making process to go through that, can you tell me kind of how that went from in beginning to kind of where it started, and then, where it ended up in terms of how did you decide on the percentage that you gave, and how did you, feel good about that? Because it's really money coming out of your own pocket when you get down to it.
Yeah. So I guess the larger thing about why we decided to do it the way we did was our intention is to be a 100% ESOP. And that is our goal. And we hope to get there in the next, 3 or 4 years, hopefully. But we knew that we weren't ready to make the leap to 100%. And honestly, because of a lot of the research we had done and all, we were looking for ways to get into the ESOP that might save us some money as far as getting it established and stuff. And by doing a non-leveraged ESOP, it did make our upfront costs more reasonable. And then as far as how we decided the amount, honestly, we did a little pre-value valuation, kind of an early valuation to get a sense of what the share price was going to be once the shares were in the ESOP. And we kind of looked at it and said, well, if we contribute this much stock, that's going to put a nice number into people's first statement.
Sure.
And so it was really kind of that arbitrary in a way of just, okay, if we put this much in there, what's a statement going to look like? Because we want those first statements to be something people look at and go, oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, I have something here. Yeah.
I didn't pay for that.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So backing into it and saying, hey, this is what we want the statement to look like. And then going, no, that makes a lot of sense. So technically because it's a non-leveraged ESOP, you didn't have to engage a trustee.
Right.
And you didn't have to go through a negotiated deal because you weren't selling anything. You were just basically contributing what you had. So what have you experienced in terms of the advantage of doing that as opposed to selling some of the stock?
Yeah, I think at this point, it's mostly been a cost savings. Obviously we were trying to avoid jumping into all the cost at once. And so we're comfortable being our own trustee at this stage. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense for us. It's allowed us to kind of ramp into some of the costs and get some of the, obviously we'll have the plan in place and a lot of those things behind us when we're ready to make the next transaction. Yep.
I would also say it's a lot simpler, from a timing standpoint and dealing with multiple parties and pulling together. It's a lot simpler. You just a couple steps. I know in your transaction, we spent probably a fair amount of time on ESOP plan design. When the purpose of doing that is you're creating the ESOP plan, even though it's only a couple percentage points or whatever you guys contributed. But this is not just now, but it's really, you have to think long-term. So the plan design step, I remember kind of going through that with the attorney. What were your, in the process of doing that, what did you see the difference between a plan design for your ESOP and then just having a normal 401k plan?
Yeah, so we've had a 401k for a long time, and it's done well. I think, I don't know exactly what you're asking, but obviously since the employees are not contributing their own money to the ESOP, we just wanted to be very thoughtful about all the options we had in the plan document to make sure that we were setting it up the way it needs to be set up to keep us happy for the long term. Right. We kind of did the same thing with our 401k. We have some, in our 401k, we skewed the rules towards encouraging savings and encouraging, or not allowing things like borrowing against it and that kind of thing, because we feel like that's an important piece of their retirement, and we intend to keep the 401k. We're not, in favor of having only an ESOP, because I feel like people definitely need the ability or the opportunity to invest their own money as well, and they need that diversity in their investments.
I forgot, are you guys still doing the match on the 401k?
So we are at this point. We're not sure if that'll always be the case. And part of that, I think we're going to let the employees kind of decide what they're thinking and what they want, because obviously if the ESOP's performing well, they may prefer that money that would be going to a match be going to accelerating the ESOP, so
Right.
so that'll be something that may change down the road, but at this point the match is still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. I think the point of my question was just that portion of it. Did you see any surprises when you're doing the plan design, or was it pretty straightforward?
I thought it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I think sometimes, and again, I don't want to make it cookie cutter. Like ESOPs are not cookie cutter at all, because there's some technical things. But if you've done, part of my point was, if you've done and you work through a 401k plan in doing an ESOP plan design with the attorney, it's really not that complicated. It's just making decisions on vesting and eligibility, and and feeling like you've represented your employees well, and making sure that you've kind of got what you think it would be helpful for them. Also, when you're recruiting people, to be able to explain, hey, this is how the ESOP works, I think is important. I don't know if you've had that opportunity to recruit yet with your ESOP, but I'm sure it will come as you guys start to talk to new people.
Yeah, and we really tried to consider the ESOP plan from the standpoint of the long-term employees that will be in the plan, because we want to protect, especially once we're 100% ESOP. You really don't want a new employee to be vested in the plan too early, because you want to make sure they're a stayer and that they're a fit. We did do some things to accelerate the vesting of people who had been with us many years. So if you've already been with us a whole bunch of years, you're not going to start at zero on your vesting in the ESOP.
Yeah.
So we took some of those things into consideration, but it's been kind of interesting, even as our employees are understanding and getting their head around how the ESOP works. They're interested in things like, so what if we get a new employee and they're not working out? Are they going to walk away with value, or take money with them when they go and on? And they're interested in how that vesting works, not so much from their own standpoint of their own vesting, but understanding that of sort of protecting the herd.
Yep. No, that's good. I think that's the part, too, you as you're the representative for your employees in that portion of it. And you guys now are the trustee of the ESOP. Mm-hmm. And is it you and your partner, or is it just you?
I think it's both of us.
Yeah. So both of you guys are the trustee, and that again, you're not a leveraged ESOP. So it's not like you're, in this major fiduciary crisis of risk, but at the same time, you do have to think for the employees and what's best for them. And that's kind of part of who you are anyways in your DNA. So it just makes sense. Have you guys used this at all when it comes to, when you think about your next steps, when it comes to your succession planning process? Like and when I say that, like, who's going to be the future Todd in the company?
Yeah, well, and we have thought about that. And so initially my co-founder is younger than me. I don't know exactly how much, but let's say 10 years, something like that. So my co-founder, who's actually serves as president and my official title CEO, is that we're not going anywhere for a while, but we actually have been amazed at the great talent that we've attracted and retained in the company, and so we're not, especially since we're not in a time crunch, we feel very confident we're gonna be able to develop some really good leadership for down the road when that comes. But we've also talked very frankly with our employees that, once this thing's 100% ESOP, if somebody comes along and wants to buy this place out, you get to decide.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And they may want to, because in the business we're in, sometimes people pay really good money on the for a strategic purchase, And so if somebody comes along and wants to pay a lot of money for the company, it may be in our employees' best interest to let that happen. And but it'll get to be their choice. And so that could be an eventual eventual outcome, and we'd be happy for them in that. But we also think that developing leadership is something that's going to continue to happen too.
Yeah. Well, it has to, right? Because, you don't want to work forever.
Yep.
Nobody does. So no, but awesome. I think, we've covered a lot of ground. I guess my final comment would be just kind of from your perspective. Is it going the way you thought it was going to go with all the research and where you are right now with the ESOP?
So far,
so far, so good.
So far it is. Yeah. I think, obviously when we get to the big transaction down the road, that's going to be a whole nother experience that is going to be, much more involved than what we've done so far. And I'm sure I'll learn a lot during that as well. But up to this point, I think it's gone very well, and we're very pleased.
Yep. Awesome. I think that, I like the story. I like what you've done with it so far, and to get motivation and impact on it with your employees already before even having a participant statement is pretty cool. So I think that's part of the approach that you took was really good, because you guys took it seriously. You were transparent with your employees, and, getting them involved is a really good idea. So I think that's a question for a lot of people. How do I actually use this to really help improve my employee turnover issue maybe, and then also just, motivating them and getting them part of the whole thing. So I think that was really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your whole story, Todd. It was really helpful.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, good. We'll have a wonderful weekend. I know we're kind of signing off on a Friday, so enjoy your weekend. And with all that, thank you for joining the podcast today and listening. As you go through your journey to an ESOP, I hope this is helpful to you, and tune in for our next one. Thank you so much.